Everyone, how's it going? Welcome to the No DQ live recap of Monday Night Raw, but not just any Monday Night Raw, the Raw after Mania. Remember back in the day, like 4 or 5, 6 years ago, when the Raw after Mania was a really big deal? Those were some fun times. I went to a Raw after Mania in 2015 and it was interesting. It was an interesting show to say the least. The atmosphere, the crowd was very unique. And Raw after Mania was sometimes like a big event in its own right. Anyways, it's 2021. After 2 nights of having WWE shows with fans, WrestleMania Night 1 and WrestleMania Night 2, we were back to the Thunderdome. Well, not back to the old Thunderdome, but we were at the new Thunderdome at the University of South Florida, no longer at the Tropicana Field. It's a much smaller arena. It used to be the Sun Dome. It was actually the site of the 1995 Royal Rumble pay-per-view. And as a result of the smaller building, we saw the Thunderdome altered a little bit. They changed the setup, and now there's some additional Thunderdome screens by the actual entranceway where the wrestlers walk out. At least it's a little bit of a cosmetic change to freshen things up, but you are going to need more than that. And speaking of freshening things up, we have a brand new Raw announce team. We have Corey Graves. Not sure if he's still going to be on SmackDown or not, but Corey Graves, Byron Saxton, they're reunited. And we have Adnan Virk, who is a former ESPN announcer. He used to work on The Score in Canada. Not sure how I feel about him yet. I've seen a lot of different opinions about him. I thought he did okay for his first night in. He reminded me a little bit of Mike Adamle, and that's not really a good thing, but I do think he did better than Adamle did on Adamle's first night. He did screw up a couple of lines, but I thought he handled himself fairly well, and for his first night in, I'm not going to be too hard on the guy. We'll see if he gets the hang of it over the next couple of weeks. Chairless Coleman with the $2 super chat says the new commentator sucks. And Marquand 1976 with the $2 super chat says, ugh, more Corey Graves. I'll say this at least about Corey Graves. I felt like he did everything possible to try and carry it. And I thought he did fairly well. And I've liked Graves and Cole on SmackDown. I thought that they were a good pairing. Why would WWE split that up? But maybe Graves is still going to do SmackDown too. I don't know. I guess we'll find out soon enough. Anyways, we kicked off Raw with footage from earlier in the day. Lashley was arriving, the WWE champion, Bobby Lashley. He was approached by Matt Riddle, the former U.S. champion. Riddle congratulated him, but wanted to challenge Lashley to a match. Lashley was basically like, no, he's not going to compete against someone lesser. He's only there to address the WWE Universe. And then Riddle started bringing up all of Lashley's previous quotes about basically being a fighting champion. Lashley slammed Riddle's face into the scooter and called Riddle a loser and said he will face him and he'll teach Riddle a lesson. By the way, people in the chat room talking about Samoa Joe possibly being on SmackDown. I guess that's possible. I'm hoping we're going to see Joe back in the ring doing something, getting back in the mix, but who knows what's going to happen with Samoa Joe. Hopefully he does something. If not wrestling, hopefully we at least get to see him on SmackDown with Michael Cole. That could be an interesting pairing. So we had our first match, which was Lashley versus Riddle. And basically, it was a lengthy squash match. Lashley beat the crap out of him, threw the scooter around, press slammed Riddle over the barricade. And then after the commercial break, more domination. Riddle made a brief comeback, went up to the top, went for the floating bro, but missed. And then Lashley put on the Hurt Lock and beat Riddle. So what's next for Riddle? I don't know, but yeah, his stock has just plummeted. He lost the United States title and then he loses again to Lashley. Where do you go from here with Riddle? I guess maybe he'll challenge R-Truth for the 24/7 title now. Maybe he can team up with Ricochet. Is Riddle going to be the next guy that Psycho Jet Black makes fun of on every live stream? I guess that's a possibility. He might be the next guy. He might be the next Psycho Jet Black target, punching bag, whatever you want to call it. Maybe that's what happens when you forget your lines, as Greg said in the chat room here. Kurapika07 said Riddle should go back to NXT. Yeah, maybe. Mike B with the $2 super chat says, Aaron and good old JM Jeff Meacham is the new SmackDown announce team. Now, you know what? We all make fun of Michael Cole, but he does a far better job than I ever would. Like, it's not an easy job. So it's very easy to criticize them and say, oh, they suck. But I appreciate the sentiment, though, Mike B. We had Rhea Ripley interviewed backstage, and she just talked about being confident in herself and talked about how it's now the brutal new order now that she's the Raw Women's Champion, and she was going to prove once again that she's ready for Asuka because, well, she had a match coming up with Asuka, a rematch from WrestleMania. But before we get to that, we had Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin against the Viking Raiders. That's right. Ivar back from his neck injury. Viking Raiders back in action. And you had a pretty solid match here with these guys. Eric now has a role on the show that isn't chasing the 24/7 title. Good for him. That's a little bit of rise in Eric's stock. Riddle took a plunge. Eric got back up a little bit. We'll see how long this renewed push works for the Viking Raiders, but they picked up the win here with the Viking experience. And I think this was one of the mess ups from Virk. He referred to the team as the Viking experience. I mean, with all the silly names, I really don't blame him for that one. And Leatherface in the chat says, rest in peace, Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander. Yeah, I mean, we all pretty much knew that this was going to happen with these guys. After leaving the Hurt Business, they're pretty much just going to be enhancement talent. We had Asuka cut a promo to hype up her match with Rhea Ripley. Basically just said that, yeah, Rhea brought the fight at WrestleMania, but on Raw, she's going to be ready for Rhea. We had Charlotte Flair make her first appearance since that whole Lacey Evans storyline, and then Charlotte got COVID and she missed WrestleMania. She vented about this and said it's not her fault that her dad got in her business and Lacey Evans got pregnant. She talked about how she did challenge Asuka, but Asuka never responded. And all the women, once Charlotte was gone, they all came in trying to get the opportunity, and the biggest snake in the room is Rhea Ripley, and Charlotte said karma is a bitch, and she, Charlotte, is that bitch. Nobody compares to her, and she doesn't steal opportunities. she is the opportunity. Nice little promo here from Charlotte to get back into the mix. And then we had our women's championship match, Asuka versus Rhea Ripley. Match was doing okay, and then they went for this electric chair drop, and it kind of fell apart. Wasn't too good. These two, for whatever reason, just don't have the chemistry together, in my opinion. Asuka got an armbar on and tried to get on the Asuka lock, but did not work. They both ended up on the outside of the ring, and Charlotte showed up for the DQ. She shoved Asuka into Rhea, so I think that means Asuka won, but I'm not sure, and it doesn't really matter anyways. Charlotte beat both of them up, and I guess we'll be getting a triple threat match probably at the next pay-per-view, WrestleMania Backlash. Yes, that is the name of the pay-per-view. And Mr. Dark Fantasy said Tampa was beautiful out today. Of course, once WrestleMania was done, back to sunny Florida skies. Psycho Jet Black with a $2 super chat says, Charlotte really came off as a whiny Karen to me. Yeah, I guess Charlotte is a heel again, even though she was a face in that whole storyline with Lacey Evans. She's going to be the female Big Show for WWE now that Big Show's in AEW and the Young Bucks are playing the role of Big Show on AEW. You got to have somebody play the role of Big Show in WWE. Looks like that can be Charlotte, at least for the women's division. Who would it be for the men's division? Maybe Strowman. Well, yeah, Strowman is pretty much the Big Show anyways. Not just in terms of the heel and face turns, but the overall presentation and going from comedy to serious monster. David Estevez with a $2 super chat says, probably one of the worst post-Mania Raws ever. Last year's post-Mania Raw was not too good either. And that was involving the Big Show getting his WrestleMania match against Drew McIntyre. Chairless Coleman with a $2 super chat says, are you happy the 24/7 title seems to be done? Well, let's not get too excited. At any time, R-Truth can show up with that bad boy and we can have more wackiness. Detective Mocha with a $2 super chat says, did Charlotte get a bunch of surgeries ugly now? I'm not sure what her cosmetic surgery history is. I thought she looked fine. I didn't have any issues with how she looked. Psycho Jet Black with a $2 super chat says, who's the Big Show of NXT? Well, to the credit of NXT, I really cannot think of one off the top of my head because NXT does a pretty good job of keeping characters consistent with their actions and not overdoing it with heel and face turns. Let's move on here. We had Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler watching the footage of Mandy Rose slipping on the stage at WrestleMania, and Mandy confronted Nia, ended up slapping Nia, and that set up a tag team match for later. But before we got to that, we had Alexa's Playground. Alexa Bliss explained her actions for why she cost the Fiend the match at WrestleMania. She said back in the summer she was a little girl that was rescued. She was lost and rescued by the darkness. The darkness protected her, but then went away, aka got burned. She said that she realized she never needed the darkness after all. And she then talked about how she has discovered something, she has unlocked something that is even more evil than her, the Fiend, something truly evil, a doll. Her new friend, Lily, which is this creepy looking doll that is going to be Alexa's new companion. Maybe it's a voodoo doll, and that's how Orton started coughing up the goo. I don't know, but I like Alexa Bliss so much in this role that it's hard for me to hate it, but I'm very borderline not caring about this anymore. Alexa did do a great job though, I will give her that, but yeah, it's just tough to really get into it at this point. And yeah, I suppose I'm mildly interested to see where they go with it. And to answer Amazing Guy, I don't know why they would break up Alexa and Bray. Doesn't make any sense to me. Like, why not just have Nikki Cross show up at WrestleMania and even the odds? If you're going to have Randy Orton win, which is not the ideal finish anyways, why not just have Nikki Cross show up to get revenge on Alexa Bliss and have her develop this dark character? Like, that would have been more interesting and give Nikki something to do. We had Miz TV with special guest, his wife, Maurice. Morrison was out there, and they were there to promote Miz and Mrs. Morrison was talking about maybe the three of them could do a spin-off. This was kind of funny. Morrison was trying to be the third wheel here, and they showed footage of the match at WrestleMania, and Miz was trying to take credit for Bad Bunny's success. Damian Priest interrupted and was not happy about Miz doing this. Said that Bad Bunny worked his ass off and nobody should be taking credit for it. Miz ended up challenging Priest to a match, but Morrison said he wanted a match with Priest, so Maurice suggested a handicap match, and Priest was like, fine, let's do it. After the commercial, we had this handicap match. Miz and Morrison were wrestling in their street clothes, and Priest was just beating the crap out of both of them for most of the time. And then Maurice started to get involved, and she saved Miz from being hit the lights. And then she got on the apron, and stupid babyface Priest got distracted. Miz with the fruit roll up, and in the process, his pants came down, and he was just there in his boxer shorts with his feet on the ropes. Maurice grabbing his foot for leverage. Miz pinned Damian Priest. Priest's first loss on the main roster. And Charles Coleman with a $2 super chat says, Miz and Morrison really suck, nothing like back then. Yeah, I mean, they're just a comedy act at this point, and they beat Damian Priest, so yeah. What a nice rub Damian Priest got from Bad Bunny, only to get pinned by The Miz while The Miz was in his boxer shorts. Yeah. Israel Diaz is like, yeah, all the rub Damian got from Bad Bunny at WrestleMania pretty much flushed down the toilet. We had Nia Jax interviewed, and they showed the footage. They replayed the footage of Mandy slapping her, and Nia asking what all of us were probably wondering, why show footage from 20 years ago, or 20 minutes ago? I just screwed up. Botch. And we had the tag team match, and the storyline in this match was Nia Jax becoming clumsy. She slipped twice, once getting in the ring and then a second time trying to get back into the ring, and Nia got really pissed off because Mandy and Dana Brooke were laughing at her, and Nia was just getting so angry. So Mandy and Dana, they were like, well, we're not going to escalate this any further, and they left. They got counted out. The baby faces ran away from a fight. Boy, I really want to cheer for Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke now. They couldn't even take an ass kicking, man, to go walk away to the back like cowards. So, yeah, this was pretty stupid. David Estevez with a $2 super chat says, Tyson Kidd is becoming a hell of a producer. Yeah, it's too bad that the writers cannot be as good as the producers. I mean, or the guy in charge could maybe make better decisions. We'd be in a lot better shape right now. Oofman Entertainment with a $2 super chat, thank you for that, says, I'll gladly take Raw from 20 years ago versus today's. Yeah, maybe I was just wishful thinking with that. And I was thinking like, man, I'd like to see something from 20 years ago. Although 20 years ago was the Austin heel turn, so yeah, I'm not sure. Still better than now, I think I'll at least say that. Charles Coleman with the $2 super chat, thank you for that, says, Trish and Lita to come back and win the tag team titles. Well, not until fans return full time. Yeah, it's going to be a rough couple of months, maybe more than a couple, 3-4 months. Let's see, it's mid-April now, so May, June, July. Yeah, a little over 3 months until we probably get fans back and WWE starts touring again. Badu McIntyre says, WTF is that thumbnail? That was from the Alexa Bliss segment on Raw, the Alexa Playhouse. That's Alexa's new friend Lily, her new partner in crime, and that was maybe the most interesting thing that happened on Raw. So that's why it's the thumbnail, to answer your question, Badu. But thank you for tuning in. I appreciate the viewership. Hopefully you'll stick around. All right, let's move on here. We had MVP recapping WrestleMania in the ring, talking about the victory from his man, Bobby Lashley. And he praised Drew McIntyre, said McIntyre is a warrior. However, McIntyre took his eye off the target for a split second, and it cost him the match. Basically, this was the nice way of saying he's a stupid babyface. And MVP said McIntyre will have to settle for being number 2. But that's okay, because number 2 after Lashley, well, that's still pretty good. And McIntyre showed up. McIntyre admitted that he made the first mistake by allowing himself to be distracted. And he wanted Lashley to get his ego inflated, because the higher Lashley gets, the harder he'll fall when McIntyre finally regains the championship. Now, MVP said nothing is given. It has to be earned. And that led to Braun Strowman coming out to the ring and saying he agrees with MVP. Drew McIntyre got his rematch at WrestleMania, so as far as Strowman is concerned, he goes to the back of the line. Randy Orton appeared, and Randy Orton said now that the Fiend and Alexa Bliss have disappeared, he can focus on the WWE title again. I guess Orton missed the segment with Alexa from earlier. Adam Pearce appeared and made a triple threat match main event. Winner goes on to WrestleMania Backlash to face Bobby Lashley. Shanti sent in a $2 super chat saying, cinematic match of Lily versus Rambling Rabbit. You know what? That would be better than probably 75% of this episode of Raw. Maybe more. We had Elias and Jackson Riker in the ring to do the usual song. Elias said Shane McMahon was heroic at WrestleMania and dedicated a song to him, but every time he tried to get started, we heard the sound of a trombone, and that can only mean one man. Of course, it was Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods with his trombone, and they made fun of Elias and Jackson Riker for getting beat up at WrestleMania, and Elias was like, well, you guys got beat up by Omos, so what's the deal? And Kofi said that they will bring the honor back where it belongs, and they had a match with these guys. I like how the build-up for this match is each team making fun of the other team for getting their asses kicked at WrestleMania. Yeah, that makes these guys come off like a whole bunch of winners. Chairless Coleman with a $2 super chat says, Strowman doing it for everyone ever called stupid. Strowman's new campaign should be, I'm going to win this match for everybody who's ever been called a stupid babyface. by some idiot on YouTube. Anyways, speaking of people that are big winners, like where were the winners from WrestleMania? No Sheamus on this show, the new United States champion, and no AJ Styles and no Omos, the new tag team champions, nowhere to be found on this epic Raw after Mania. Marquand 1976 with a $5 super chat, thank you for that, says, Kofi Kingston never seems to get mad when he loses a championship. Well, I guess he saw John Cena not react to losses, so he's like, well, if I just brush it off, then people aren't going to see me as a loser. Who knows? You'd have to ask Kofi that question. Why does he never get mad when he loses a title? The Game is on 100 with a $2 super chat, says, Lashley thinks number one, but not to our number one tribal chief. Well, that I agree with. Lashley is number one on Raw, but number one in WWE. I think I'm going to have to go with the tribal chief as well. We had New Day pinning Elias, which surprised me because he got Jackson Ryker out there, a guy who's somehow still employed by the company. And Elias, you know, a guy that people actually like. And you're jobbing him out now. All right. I feel like this show lowered the stock of more people than it rose. And that's not really how you want to build a brand moving forward. Just my opinion. Like, who got elevated on this show? I'm trying to think. We got the Viking Raiders back, but how long until they're doing stupid comedy or jobbing out in meaningless matches? But pretty much everyone else, other than Lashley, I feel have gone a step down. Charles Coleman with the $2 super chat says, Jackson Ryker really sucks. Yeah, he does. Never really cared for the guy too much. Didn't like him as Gunner in TNA. Didn't really understand why WWE picked him up. Psycho Jet Black with a $2 super chat says, Ryker is as useful as rusty nails stuck to wood. Ouch. And ladies and gentlemen, that's what we call the Savage Line of the Night. And Psycho Jet Black, thank you for your continued contributions. You've been one of the top fans tuning into all these live streams. Caleb Jacobs was doing a great job too, but he told me on Facebook he's taking a break from WWE, which means he's taking a break from the live streams, which means he ain't going to be acknowledged as the top fan. But I do appreciate Caleb's very generous super chat from last week, which will keep him towards the top, but I am going to proclaim the top no DQ fans once we finish up with these 17 nights. And Oofman Entertainment, also a 25-time super chat champion, so we always got to acknowledge him as well. We had Randy Orton cut a promo to hype up the main event. Once again said Alexa and the Fiend disappeared. And then right after the break, well, we had the Firefly Funhouse with Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt is back. Whoop-de-doo. I was more happy about seeing Rambling Rabbit again. Rambling Rabbit was back, and Gary says he's not staying tuned in for the whole thing. He's got a major shout out, and hopefully it helps. He made a major shout out on his page, and he says, keep up the good work. Thank you for that, Gary. I appreciate it. And Charles Coleman with the $2 super chat says, sorry for off topic, but Reginald sucks too. Well, no Reginald on Raw, which thumbs up for me. And it's too bad because I liked Reginald with Carmella, but then the gimmick really ran its course very quickly for me. You know, it just left a sour taste in my mouth after the whole Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks storyline. So anyways, the Firefly Funhouse, Bray Wyatt with all the puppets, good to be back with true friends. Abby called Alexa a bitch, and Bray Wyatt teased a new season of Firefly Funhouse with new friends, and a brand new him. And I'm like, whatever, man. We had our main event, McIntyre versus Orton versus Strowman. Winner gets to go to WrestleMania Backlash. And in the beginning moments, McIntyre and Orton worked together. They double teamed Strowman, but that union did not last long. And Strowman went for the Strowman Express. Thankfully, they got rid of the train sound. Might have only been for 1 week, but at least for this week, they got rid of it. Orton stopped the Strowman Express with the steel steps. And then after the commercial break, Strowman took control again, hit both guys with the steps, and then got Orton back in the ring. But Orton hit Strowman with an RKO. And as Orton went for the pin, Drew McIntyre came in with a Claymore out of nowhere to Orton, pinned Orton to win the match and go on to WrestleMania Backlash. And then MVP's music hit. MVP showed up on the stage, and all of a sudden, when Drew McIntyre was distracted, you had Mace and T-Bar appear. So they're still a thing, and they attacked Drew McIntyre, and there was this tease that maybe they were going to be joining the Hurt Business. Why not just have Dominik Dijakovic and Dio Madden show up at the end without the goofy costumes? I mean, I guess next week they could take off the costumes, but I will say this. If it's T-Bar and Mace with the costumes in not Retribution, in the Hurt Business, I'm not going to be liking it. They need to ditch the costumes. If Retribution is gone, they need to ditch the names. T-Bar is my name. They need to be Dominik Dijakovic and Dio Madden as part of the Hurt Business. That I would like. But if they're T-Bar and Mace with the costumes next week, it's getting a thumbs down for me. Charles Coleman with a $2 super chat says, anything Wyatt can do to save his career? Well, the guy is very creative and very entertaining, so that will give him some longevity. But I think history might go down as stating this was a guy that could have been so much more. Like, he could have been the new Undertaker. And in the end, he's going to be a guy that had some entertaining moments, but never really lived up to the full potential because they never booked him to be the type of star that the Undertaker was. They booked him to be a guy that talked a big game, but then choked when the critical moments arrived. And no Keith Lee on this show. No real surprises other than the Viking Raiders being back together. You know, Raw after WrestleMania used to have some surprise appearances and debuts and just some fun stuff. And there wasn't a whole lot of fun stuff on this show, in my opinion. I'm going to give it a C-, which is generous. They did a little cliffhanger at the end, but again, next week it's letter grade down if it's T-Bar and Mace with the Retribution outfits. If it's Dominik Dijakovic and Dio Madden, then I'll be interested. And that, my friends, was Raw, so C-. C- for Raw. Michael Wayne, D+. Game is on 100 with a D+. MVP Kev, CC Drink, and Dr. NXT Scorpio also give it a C-, as does Elijah and Leatherface. The Rap Metal dude gives it a C. Sean gives it an F-, and Lucci Club Studios gives it a D- as well. Amazing Guy says, did Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard really change plans to make The Fiend lose? That's what the report is stating, and does not surprise me. I mean, that's typical Vince, changing things last minute, and yeah, what wasn't a very good decision. I think the internet reaction spoke volumes in the live crowd. You know, you had live fans back, and they were not happy with it. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Night 13 of 17 nights. Next up is NXT's Tuesday debut. We got Dynamite, No DQ review, which is going to be a really interesting one coming off WrestleMania, and then SmackDown. And then I'll finally have a couple of days of rest. But until then, we got more to come. Subscribe, tell a friend, spread the word, and I will see you guys next